James Turrell is here. His work as an artist explores perception, light, color, and space. Chuck Close has said of him, he's an orchestrator of experience, not a creator of cheap effects. And every artist knows how cheap an effect is and how revolutionary an experience. Turrell's first major museum show in New York since 1980 is currently on view at the Guggenheim Museum. It features a major new project called Atom Rain. The Guggenheim is transformed into an enormous volume filled with shifting artificial and natural light. I am pleased to have James Turrell at this table for the first time. Welcome. What a pleasure it is to have you here.
It's terrific to be here.
Now, you've got 3 exhibitions at the same time?
Actually, more than that.
Oh.
There's
big ones, though.
Yes, large ones.
Is that
three museum shows?
Was that planned that way?
Yes.
In order to do what? Achieve what?
Well, after 48 years of working, to do a retrospective, I'm representing it with only 23 works.
Yeah.
So that would normally be done with more works as a painter or most other artists. So this is just a work that luxuriates in space and uses up quite a bit of it. So it took 3 museums to do that.
Let me go back to the beginning. Growing up, Quaker family?
Quaker family, yes.
Not much in your own family a sense of art is crucial to life.
No, Wilburites don't believe in art. Think it's a vanity.
Yeah, vanity. Art's a vanity.
Yes, of course. Now seeing art fairs and auction prices and all this, maybe it is.
It is, yes. So how did you escape from that into this perception of light and its thingness? A word I want you to describe for me.
Thingness, that it occupies space, that it has presence, that it is something that you feel to be there.
It's a thing into itself. It's not just something that you use to observe something else.
Photon has mass, so it is something. It is passing through rather quickly. So I do make these spaces that seem to apprehend light for our perception. And these are spaces that both protect it and in some way form it. But it is light you're looking at, light in the space.
And when did you discover that this was what made you most curious?
Curious from being a child. I mean, everybody has. I mean, they even test, your response to light, and children are fascinated by it. And perhaps I never grew out of it. It's like
you never grew out of it, yeah. Yes. Because most children don't go and become an artist of light.
Well, it's just also most children don't become a fireman because they love that when they're young too. But some do.
Right.
Some do.
But was there a moment? Was there an object? Was there something that said, "Wow, this is how I want to spend my life"?
That was kind of all along, sort of a bit of an assumption, but it was only as it became possible to do this in art that it became that important. And that was sort of, it came about in college and came from very good teachers. James Demetrian, who was at the Hirshhorn most recently, but before that was at Des Moines Art Center, and before that at Pasadena Art Museum, and before that a teacher at Pomona College, though only 2 years, and I happened to be there those 2 years.
And you once said the world is not one we receive, but one we create.
Well, that's the other thing, is that we're quite unaware of how much that we perceive we are a part of creating.
Yeah.
That we are co-creators. I mean, this is something that, of course, you hear about in Eastern philosophies, or now even in subatomic particle physics, where essentially we're finding what we're looking for, which has to do with perhaps even making it. These are things that I think are really important today and are very interesting. But how much of the world that we assume is amazing. We have prejudiced perception or ways of seeing that we have ways of perceiving that we have actually formed that may not actually be that way, or don't necessarily have to be that way.
And so you want us to understand what?
Well, that we are part of creating that which we think we perceive.
Right.
Just that little part. And so, of course, this is different in every piece. Sometimes you're successful in doing that, other times not so. But I do a work that tends to go around that point.
Is the Guggenheim the perfect place for you?
It's a difficult place.
Oh, but does the nature it offer you possibilities other places might not?
The staff, that is those who do the work, and the director and the curators there, they gave me the opportunity. Yeah. Because it's what you want to do and how much you can involve yourself in doing and how much they're willing to spend and take on and what risk they're able to take on. That's really important.
Yeah. But what I love about it, and this is me as a journalist, what I love is the idea of the Guggenheim is where Frank Lloyd Wright meets James Turrell.
Or I meet Frank.
Oh, you meet Frank Lloyd Wright. Yes. Right.
And I think it's a rather glorious combination.
I do too.
And
that's my point.
And I think he would like it. As Richard Armstrong said, the red phone on his desk that goes directly to Frank did not ring.
Did not ring at all.
Right. Yeah. And I think that there have been other projects that may have been in there where people wondered about that, where they...
Yeah. It is, though, your work is not easily photographed.
Well, someone has to make up for all the work that's photographed better than it is.
Yeah, exactly. So you're doing something where the experience is better than the photograph.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
it's rather flat. A photograph's rather flat. Obviously, also when it photographs, you can't tell whether it's standing up vertically or just how it works that way.
But this is what Chuck Close meant. It's an experience.
Yes.
You provide an experience.
Yes.
And people fall down even.
Oh, no.
Well, we don't want to go there.
That has happened and did influence a lot of how I would show things in the U.S.
What do you mean?
That was at the Whitney show where someone did.
Right.
Actually, there were two. One dove into a piece thinking it would be soft. And the other actually fell back against something that she thought was a wall. It was going to be a wall. I mean, her testimony is there was this wall. Actually, it was the receding wall. I leaned against it, and it wasn't there.
Yeah.
So that did happen. And that, in a way, I stopped having pieces that people then walked through in the U.S., and so it left them for Asia and for...
Do you find it difficult or easy for you, because you are an artist and words do come to you, and the command of language is yours, but nevertheless it's difficult to describe what you do?
I try to stay away from that because it's made for...
The thing speaks for itself.
Yes, yes. And so, but I did find some difficulty in trying to do this with Patrick Lannon and the Lannon Foundation, who supported the initial work at the Crater. We went over and over and over everything that was happening. Each piece was being built. He spent quite a bit of money there and was amazingly helpful. And then there was this time that things were done. He brought out the board to see it. Yes. We went through it. They were thrilled. He pulled me aside and he said, why didn't you tell me this was your building? I said, I thought I did.
Yeah.
And so those things, you do come up against the reality of how good your descriptive process is.
I was alluding to this earlier, and your own discovery of all this, and I was thinking about your aunt, Frances Hodges.
Yes.
Well, she played a huge role.
Well, she was 17 magazine, and then was part of the making of Mademoiselle later, so she was sort of my Auntie Mame.
Yeah.
She lived at number 4 Gramercy Park.
Right.
We're now at number 2, but she had the whole building.
But she introduced you to the world of New York.
Yes, also Thomas Wilford, but she meant to introduce me to, of course, the beautiful Monet water lilies, which were amazing, and how much they subtended of our vision.
And did they speak to you?
Absolutely, they did. But there was this Thomas Wilford there, who was this strange guy who made this light in a box kind of thing, and I thought, well, that looks like our time. Yeah. And that was the big thing, is just something that was our, what we do, what we're doing now. And of course, for me, painting was European. Coming from Los Angeles, we'd see photographs of art. You'd see it in the slideshow. Yeah. But you have to remember that the Mona Lisa was projected to the same dimension as Barnett Newman's Who's Afraid of Yellow.
Right, right.
So sometimes when I saw the actual things, they seemed small and not very luminous. That was I did feel that sometimes. But that's how I got culture. And of course, culture is very different in Los Angeles. That's a town that's an entertainment town. It's not culture. Right. And I've always thought that Las Vegas is kind of what L.A. wanted to be on its day off. And I now have a piece in Las Vegas at the Louis Vuitton.
You were saying that Las Vegas is what L.A. wanted to be on his day off.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
That's how it always seemed to me. So it was a town that didn't really worry about having taste.
Yeah.
And that is strangely freeing too, because Taste is constriction. Taste
Yeah.
is restriction.
Yeah, if you assume that, if you know that, or if you feel that, then you can just.
But you could do what you wanted.
Unbounded.
Yeah, you could do what you wanted there, and you come here and you feel culture having been made already.
Yeah.
That's not true in the time I was growing up in L.A.
You are at the first rank of American artists. I mean, I'll tell you that. You know that, but you may be modest about it. What is it that you perceive? What is it that we want to understand about your genius? And pardon the use of these words about front rank and genius. But what is it that you hope we get about what you are about?
Well, the joy of sensing, which is the sensual, and that's often missed in sort of descriptions of my work, that it's quite sensual and even emotional. And that I like about it, but it has more to do with the description has more to do with describing how it happens or how it comes about or what it is. That doesn't seem to bother me much.
And what's the hardest about it, the creation, for you?
Working with light is.
But is it the idea or the execution?
It's the execution.
Yeah.
The execution. Ideas and thoughts are cheap. You can have many of them, but it's actually pulling it off, actually making these things, realizing them, and that as an artist you have to manifest. You don't get to count the things you haven't done, but that you thought of that were terrific.
Yeah.
But that you thought of that were terrific.
Yeah.
So
one of the things that fascinates me too is that when you hopped aboard that little single-engine plane and went from place to place, sort of with a sleeping bag and exploring. What was that about?
Well, it was about really learning about the Earth. I mean, the Earth is like a rhinoceros hide or something. It's just folded and it's so crusty and it's really beautiful. And of course, the West, you find it jammed together the most. Of course, it happened in the Appalachians, and that's why all those ridges were made. But you really feel that out west, where you see the history of geology just bare and there for you. It's not overgrown with planting. So it was sort of exciting to feel the Earth. And then this idea of thinking how to deal with the Earth, kind of getting up into the sky. That's why I took this mastaba form or volcanic form.
Did you have a pilot or you did it yourself?
I'm a pilot.
So yes, you are a pilot,
yes.
So yeah.
And so that was really exciting to do also. And I took 7 months doing it.
Yeah.
And
looking for what?
I wasn't sure.
Ah.
If I had known, it would have been easier to find.
but as it formally said, when you saw it, you knew that was what you were looking for.
Yes, that's true.
And so, what did you see?
People even think that of art. They don't know what I like, but I don't know what what art is, but I know what I like.
Exactly right. Or I can't define it, but I'll know it when I see it.
Yes, but that does happen to all of us, and so that's wondrous when you can get into that kind of zone.
And you've been developing a network of tunnels and
I had essentially the pyramid. I just had to put in the tunnels and the chambers.
Yeah.
I looked at it that way, and that's how I described it to Patrick Lana, and he has laughed at that after having supported it. And it's a bit true, but I think that it, you can see this in Herodium, which is near Hebron. You can see it in Silbury Hill, and particularly some of the hill forts in England, like Old Sarum. In fact, Old Sarum is very much like Roden Crater, because it has the two sort of kind of crater within a crater.
And you've been working on it since 1974.
That's when I found it.
Yeah.
I've been working on it since '79, when I finally obtained it. It took me 3 years to buy it. I took 2 years and then was able to get so in '76 I had the plans first shown at the Stedelijk Museum in Amsterdam. So that's when I first had the plans out. So it has, of course, transmogrified since then, which is a good lesson that, if you don't support artists when they have the idea, their ideas get more expensive and complex.
Yeah. You say sometimes you get discouraged. What do you get discouraged by? The mammothnesss of the
No,
task?
just my ability to sort of garner support. I find that...
To get support?
Yes.
For your work.
Support to work.
Even now?
Not
Not so now?
you know, there's very few artists that are going to feel sorry for me. So I don't know about that. But yes, personally, I can get discouraged. Just like, you know, you may have a friend that still has not finished their thesis.
Yeah.
I feel a little bit that way, but it's coming along. And I finished some larger projects, like an actual pyramid in Yucatan that's now complete, and it's near you approach through Mérida, or very close to a town called Tixcacalteyup.
Yeah. Now, do you let a lot of people visit these places?
Oh, that's actually not my business there. That was made for a couple.
But, how about the Rodin?
I'd let some people visit that are
very few.
But those part of supporting it.
Really?
It's a bit like not wanting to show this painting that you haven't quite finished, because
exactly.
You know.
Yeah. So until you finish it, then you can.
But that's coming along. It's doing much better
is there
than
a date
it has.
certain?
Well, you know, I've always said that, you know, I was going to be done by 2000, and I'm sticking to it.
Right. All right, let's show some things here. We've got some pictures here I want to show. Let's look at the first slide, okay?
That's actually Ronan. That's one of the 1969 pieces.
Yeah.
And this is actually part of the collection of the Guggenheim. This is Autunrain.
Right, okay, there you go. And just describe this, can you, for me?
This is
already
it's 85 feet high. It goes up, and I'm lighting all the levels that Frank made.
Yeah.
And on the right, you see where that level comes in, where it starts.
Yeah.
And so these are the levels that are actually there.
And the next thing we'll see is Ephraim, 1967. I think I'm a little bit.
Well, Ephraim is a piece that's also owned, was purchased from the Ponza. That's from the Ponza collection.
Yeah.
Now this is the early works where I just had light on the wall. And
this coming up next is a Prado.
Okay, Prado is also a
1967.
projection.
Yeah.
These are ones here. It attaches more to the floor, and it seems, in terms of its how it looks, it seems to be from the floor, and it puts the wall in the background. So here was something, just a shape on the wall makes this plastic quality where you realize that actually I'm making the picture plane be the wall, like Plato's cave, and then I'm putting things on this surface, and it becomes very malleable. And I had pieces that come into the wall, into the room, like Ephraim, the one before, things that seem to be where the wall was, and the wall seems to be recede. Others that seem to hole through and look as though there's an opening through the wall. So this right from the start, I was beginning to get onto the craft. I mean, how do you form it? It doesn't form like clay, where you form it with the hand. It doesn't form like hot wax, or you don't carve it away like wood or with stone. So getting to work with it is almost like making the instrument that helps you form it. So it's almost more like sound, like music.
This is way off the beaten track, but let me just ask it anyway. So architects who create museums, light is central to what they want to do. Do people like that call on you and say, tell me, James, what do I need to know here?
No, but there are sometimes I've been called upon to help fix the Rothko Chapel, where the light has damaged the paintings, and also where when you look up there's this big dark presence over your head. So that's something that I'm employed.
What don't you know
fix.
about light?
Well, I'd always be surprised. I mean, I was surprised that we were able to stop it. That actually we found a medium where we could actually slow down light to the point it didn't move through it. That's very recently.
Oh, yeah.
That happened.
And how did that happen?
Through, I guess, a lot of experimentation.
Exactly, trial and error.
Yes. So seeing that is quite amazing to me. Also, I'm very interested in experiments where we now are suspecting that light knows when we're looking.
Light knows when we're looking.
That absolutely.
It changes when we look?
Yes, it has different behavior when we're looking.
How do we figure that out?
Well, I don't know all about the experimental process in deciding that, but basically it has different behavior through a diffraction grating when we're looking than when we're not. That's quite interesting. That almost imbues it with consciousness.
Which is what everybody wants to understand.
I think everybody even feels that way. I mean, first of all, here's this substance that we drink as vitamin D through the skin.
Yeah.
So it's actually a food.
Yeah.
I mean, we actually are light eaters. Then, of course, it has very strong emotional effect, and even in film, where we're not really looking at light, but we're looking at the narrative or story that carried through the film, or by light. But it has very powerful connotations there as well. And then, of course, every time we talk about light, near-death experience is always described with the vocabulary of light.
Yes.
Samadhi, or enlightenment. All these things have to do with, the light-filled void, this quality of where we are achieving something on the light not beheld with the eyes open. Because with the eyes closed, there's full vision. If you think of the lucid dream, there's full vision without eyes. And so is this memory? Well, no, because often we're dreaming things that aren't even pieced together from memory. Sometimes they are from memory, but often no memory at all. So where does this light in the dream come from? And how do we have this full vision that we access, 7 to 8 hours a night with the eyes closed? And what is the light? Where does light come from in the dream? Those are very interesting thoughts and ideas. And so I wanted to actually deal with a light that seemed to be a light that we knew but don't often see with the eyes open. Because we often see light this way, but not that often with the eyes open. So I would like to have this sort of recognition of a light that is sort of known to us, but we haven't. Is surprised to find it. It's like when you go and you see someone you've known in a certain context. Now they're in a new context that you see them and you can't remember their name and what they're doing here.
Yes.
That kind of thing is a little bit like I would like to achieve in my work, that you know this light, but it's not familiar with the eyes open.
It's an extraordinary story. Where do you go from here?
Well,
You're 70. You just celebrated your 70th birthday.
Well, I would now like to have this way of working. I would have liked to have had this maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So
what do you mean by way of working?
That I have these many opportunities and all of that, and because you have to sort of be asked. It's not as though you're just awarded these things by asking for them, because people want to do them or don't. So this has really come more of late. I would have liked to have been at this stage earlier, when I had more energy, but I'm now trying
maybe less wisdom.
Certainly less wisdom. That in all kinds of ways of life, that's for sure.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
It's very nice to meet you, and this is terrific. Thank you.
So let me just give everybody what they ought to know. The exhibition at the Guggenheim will run from June 21st through September 25th. It was organized in conjunction with the Los Angeles County Museum of Art and Museum of Fine Arts in Houston. Comprises one of the three, as I referenced earlier, major Turrell exhibitions spanning the U.S. during the summer of 2013, which is where we are now. As the curator of the Houston exhibition, Allison D. Lima Green, put it, this is the first time that three museums have mounted exhibitions of this magnitude in conjunction, all devoted to a single artist. James Turrell, thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Enjoyed it. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.